My name is Pauline Jew. Let me welcome everybody to Chapter 65, San Francisco's NARFE Chapter's monthly meeting. Jerry Hall is not able to join us today. He's on a personal mission right now, but he called me and wanted to welcome all of you to today's presentation. Martha's already mentioned that we are enabling the recording, and we also are the live transcript, so that our secretary, who's not able to join us today, can then watch and take the notes for our meeting. So let's see. I think we have people with their names and their chapters. If you want to put down your chapter, that will help our speaker get an understanding of how wide the attendance is. So let's see, what else do I need to cover? Leslie is going to help me later do the chat. So we're going to have a presentation. I'm really excited about this. We're going to have a presentation for a representative from Senator Alex Padilla's office. And then we'll have her answer questions during the presentation, either through chat or you can, unmute yourself. But you can ask everybody to go ahead and mute yourself first so that we don't have any barking dogs and birds chirping in the background. Is that it, Martha? I think that's everything, right? Martha's our IT person. She'll try to keep us on track. And so let me go ahead and introduce. I am very excited. Can you tell? I'm very excited to have Zahra Hajee, who is the Bay Area field representative for Senator Alex Padilla's office. As all of you know, Senator Padilla took was sworn in the place of Kamala Harris, who then ascended up to the vice president position. So we reached out to his office and asked if someone could speak to our group about federal employees issues, and Zahra has graciously agreed to join us. So let me hand it over to Zahra.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Zahra Hajee, she, her. I'm the Bay Area field representative for Senator Padilla. I've been with him since March of last year. So it's going to be a year. I'm going to be hitting a year next month, which is, really exciting to have been part of the team and, contributing to the senator's work in the Bay Area. I did notice that there are folks here representing from across the state. So if you ever need to get connected with our field representatives from any of our other regional offices, we have one in Sacramento. I'm based here in San Francisco. We have a Central Valley field representative based in Fresno, one in LA and one in San Diego. So if you want to get connected with any of our field reps from, any of those regions to discuss issues that are, central to your area, definitely connect with me after this call. I drop my email in the chat, and I'm happy to share my email to Pauline or whoever's best to make sure that you get our contact information as well. And, I'm just happy that this line of communication is, open. The work that, you all have done and, are doing is incredibly, important. And the senator wants to do whatever he can to make sure that, he's supporting federal employees and retirees, across California and also across the nation. With some of the questions that were sent to me beforehand, I know there's a lot of interest in the Postal Service Reform Act. So I'm happy to dive a little bit deeper into the current status and, where the senator's moving forward on that. I know there's also some interest around, COVID recovery and voting rights. So I just wanted to make this more of an open conversation. So I'm happy to go either way, either do an overview first or just sort of dive into the questions and, happy to answer any questions that you all have. So let me know what's best and I'm happy to go from there.
Yeah, so maybe we can start with a little bit of an overview in terms of, I know one of the things that I noticed is that Senator Padilla called out the whole racial comments about, a judge was being looked at and he called them out on using the rap sheet thing. So we can talk about that later in terms of racial justice and things, but maybe an overview of what you guys are working on.
Yeah, totally. I can dive into, a couple issues that the senator has been, hitting the ground running since he was sworn in and, has dived deep into, a lot of different issues that are so critical to our local communities across California. I definitely want to touch on three, major issues that he's been working on in the Senate. one, COVID recovery has been one of his, top issues since he started in the Senate. First, one of his first votes was, around the package of, the first package of COVID relief funds. And, that's one thing that he continues to support, robust, services and federal funding for COVID recovery, for vaccine access and distribution. One thing that he's really focused in on right now is, child vaccinations for our families, especially since, they are at a lower percentage right now. And he wants to do whatever he can to both, raise awareness and also increase access for vaccinations, among other forms of support. He's also continuing to work on workers' protections in relation to COVID-19. So he's urged the Biden administration to reinstate COVID-19 emergency paid sick and family leave, and also to make OSHA's emergency COVID-19 protections for workers permanent, which were about to sunset as emergency protection. So, for both our workers, our frontline workers, as well as for our communities across California, he really wants to continue ensuring that he's supporting COVID recovery in the most effective way, and really looking at it through an equity lens. So for, our folks who are, struggling the most and are the most impacted, to make sure that those voices are uplifted in the work that he's doing in DC. The second one that I wanted to flag, is the passage of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which is really, really exciting. And there's a lot of funding that's going towards, really large capital projects funding across the state where infrastructure improvements are desperately needed. But particularly in California, where, our fire season has now turned, into an all-around fire season, and is really impacting, our communities across California, whether it's for, wildfire prevention or recovery. He's currently working on a bill called the Fire Bill that has actually made its way through committee and is moving to the Senate floor to actually reform the way that FEMA allocates funding, so that there's so much more funding available in a faster way and in a more effective way to support communities that are going through wildfire recovery and rebuilding, but also towards prevention efforts to make sure that people have the resources that they need to be able to be prepared, and also just help mitigate, the wildfires that, we're currently struggling with. And, he's also been a big champion of, climate change efforts to address climate change, because that's, an issue that's, impacting all of us. The last thing that I did want to mention, since there was interest around, voting rights, that is something that the senator, has continued to champion and uses his experience as, the previous Secretary of State. He worked really hard to make a very accessible voting system across California, and that's a practice that he wants to bring to DC. Around the time that the Senate was working to pass, the new iterations of the For the People Act, around, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, he was actually in Georgia with the president and the vice president to talk about, how voter suppression laws across a variety of states across the nation are really, impacting people's ability, particularly our Black and Brown communities, to actively participate in our democracy. And that's so concerning. So he's, introduced and co-sponsored a couple pieces of legislation that I can further dive into, that introduces voter protection through all parts of the process, through, our voting process when folks are going to the polls or voting by mail, and also through, the certification and process of and the voting results process, which also needs, protection. So he's looking at voting in a really comprehensive manner and bringing a lot of his expertise as Secretary of State to the Senate as well, and is working to be really effective on that front too. So those are a couple of, major issues that, he's working on, but also happy to dive a little bit deeper into, some of the questions that you might have around, what he's doing in the Senate and issues that are, directly impacting you all. That would be really helpful for us to have a conversation about. But yeah, that's it from me.
Great, that's a lot. So, yeah, can you give us a background in terms of what's going on with the Postal Service reform?
Yeah, so as some of you might have seen in the news, the Postal Service Reform Act has reached a little bit of a snafu, but it's not too much to worry about. Essentially, when the House overwhelmingly passed the Postal Service Reform Act, there was a bit of a clerical error and they passed the wrong version. They do have, Senate rules to be able to rectify that, but there's been a little bit of a hiccup there, but there has been bipartisan support. Even in the Senate, there are 16 Republican senators that are, already in support of the right version of the Postal Service Reform Act. So the Senate's going into recess this upcoming Friday, so it won't be able to come up for a vote at the end of the week like originally planned, but most likely will come up for a vote and will hopefully, fingers crossed, most likely pass in March, pending any other issues. The senator's been in conversations regarding the Postal Service Reform Act and was part of, the initial set of introducers back in May of last year. So this is something that, he's been closely monitoring because it's incredibly important to, reform our current postal service operations as they stand, both for our postal service workers and also for, our system as a whole. And a couple of things that he's definitely in supportive of that I believe, the chapters are also supportive of are also repealing the pre-funding requirements that were, unprecedented and not included for any other federal agency. So that's something that will most likely, that has been repealed in the current iteration of the bill that the senator supports. And also helping with the Medicare integration for benefits, but also providing workers with a choice on whether they would like to, enter into that or not, which I know was a change that was introduced when it went through the committee process. So those are two things that the senator is definitely supportive of and are also in the current iterations of the bill as it stands. I know that's something that you all are monitoring closely as well with those two provisions. So if there are any updates regarding that, I'll definitely let you all know, but most likely there will not be a change on either of those two provisions because they've already been through the committee process and have been pretty set. So I just wanted to flag those specific updates for you all as I know it's of interest.
So this might be a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway. In terms of if the Senate votes on it in the past, then how soon can this reform? Is it next fiscal year or?
No, that's actually not a silly question. It's actually a bit of a nuanced question. I believe it is next fiscal year, but I know that there have been some conversations about whether the date might change in the final iteration of the bill, but I'll double check.
2025 it starts, I believe.
I'll double check on that because I know I've heard both, and most recently I did hear the next fiscal year, but I will double check that with our DC staffer. Her name's Rebecca. She's our staffer on postal reform in DC. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it today, but we're in close coordination, and I flagged that question for her because I had the same question as well. So once she gets me an answer, I'll definitely let you all know, and also let you all know if that changes in the final iteration of the bill as it passes in the Senate.
We have a question from Forney Lundy. The Postal Reform Act that the Senate will vote on, is that the version, the one that does not require the USPS to pre-fund the retirement of future retirees?
Yes, it repeals pre-funding. Yeah, so that will not be included anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions about postal reform?
I was just trying to remember the difference between the two versions. The first version did not give the people a choice. Was that the difference between the first and second version?
Yeah, so the first version did not give people a choice and everyone was automatically enrolled into Medicare Plan B, but the newer version gives people a choice on whether they would like to enroll or not, which is a good change.
And that's for current retirees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because new employees will go over once they start retiring. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions on the postal reform? That's an exciting move. I mean, it's like, it was such a stuck issue for so many years.
Right.
And now, right now, it's like an iceberg just breaking loose.
Yeah,
Really
exactly.
moving along.
And it's great to see so much bipartisan support as well, and it to be, more smooth sailing than, and other legislative packages that we've seen this past year. So, fingers crossed it's smooth sailing through the full process.
Yeah. So I know we have some postal service retirees on today's call. Any questions from you all about it? You guys probably know a lot too.
Yeah, also, even if not questions, just any feedback that you think would be helpful for me to pass along to our DC team and the senator, that's something that would be helpful for him as well. So if there are any, just general comments or feedback based on your experience, would love to hear that.
No. Martha, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm a letter carrier with the NALC health plan and also with Medicare. Will this automatically move me into the postal plan? I believe it will, but I'm just not sure.
I don't believe it automatically moves you. I believe you have the choice on whether
even if you're in Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was what they really wanted. The fight was about that, Martha, because a lot of people didn't want to have to go. So they, I think, left those retirees in place, but it's the new employees who are going in that will have no choice. That's going to be binding, I think, for them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have a question from Joy.
Yeah. I'm from Fallbrook, down by Camp Pendleton in San Diego County. I'm retired from the Treasury Union, or the Treasury employees, or Treasury Department, I should say. And my question is about Medicare and prescription drugs. What's the chance that we'll allow Medicare to negotiate on drug prices?
Yeah, so I know that that's an ongoing conversation in the Senate, and particularly within, Build Back Better. So our health policy advisor, Lorenzo, is keeping me updated on what those conversations will look like. It looks like they're a little stalled right now until they're able to revisit, what a future Build Back Better revision would look like that would, realistically pass the Senate. So once we get more information on that and what, the concrete provisions would look like as it relates to Medicare and drug pricing, I'll definitely keep you all updated as well, because I know that's a really important issue too. I wish I had more information at this point about legislation, but especially with Build Back Better, I think it's going to take a little more time until we get a concrete idea of what it will look like.
Okay, we have a question from Diane Zaha. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Zaya, but that's all right.
Okay.
Diane is fine.
Okay.
Now, for those of us who have Medicare A and B, and we have a plan from the federal employees plan, how will that, or is it too early to say, how that will affect the plans we can choose from?
Oh, if you're
premiums go up or down, or more plans or less plans, or will it be separate and only for postal retirees? I'm a postal retiree.
Yeah, it's currently only for postal retirees, and for current retirees, you get the choice on whether to enroll within Medicare Plan B. And then their reasoning is the more folks that enroll, just because of the nature of the larger pool, the lower the premiums become with the more people that you have within it. For those who are not yet retirees, they will no longer have that choice on whether to enroll. It's only for current retirees that may currently be on a different plan that's not Plan B. So that's what, the current state of it looks like right now. And I think our Rebecca she's working on a one pager that will go into more specifics about, how, once the legislation's passed, how it would impact your plan specifically. So, as we get closer to the legislation actually passing and what the concrete impacts will look like, I'll get you all that one pager as well with more detailed information, because having that written information on hand will probably be helpful.
Okay, John Rose has a question or comment, and then I'm going to read 2 questions from the chat after that.
Okay.
Thanks. I wanted to ask about a few bills. First, I want to thank the senator for supporting S1302 to repeal the WEP and the GPO, and also signing on to S420 to protect the right to organize. Those are very important to the union. I've written him about some other bills and hadn't heard back. So S2055, the Whistleblower Protection Act that was introduced by Senator Maloney. I'm hoping he'll sign on to that, but haven't heard any comment. The FAIR Act for federal employee COLA, we're asking for 3.2%. It's HR 392. It doesn't have a companion bill yet in the Senate, but it will, and we're hoping that he'll push for it. He did co-sponsor it last year, but it failed. And S1158, the family leave for federal employees, hoping he'll support that. We have it for non-federal employees, but not for the feds. And then S1561, Locality Pay Equity Act. This would prevent OPM from breaking down agency into mini localities. So for example, I'm at the VA Palo Alto healthcare system, which goes from Monterey all the way up to Sonora. And in the past, OPM has made separate locality pays for each of our locations, which then makes it really hard to move staff around as needed. This year they didn't do that. We're very grateful, but we don't want to see that happen again.
Okay, this is helpful. I know for 1158 around family leave, and also for COLA, I believe he is supportive or is a co-sponsor, or when the bill comes into the Senate, he will be a co-sponsor. For the other two, I will double check on co-sponsorship status, but based on your descriptions of the bill, they do align with what he would typically support, but I'm going to double check with Rebecca just to make sure. And then I'm going to drop my email in the chat again. And if you have any questions about any other particular bills that come up, or co-sponsorship status, or any feedback for us that you think would be helpful, feel free to flag all of those for me and I'll get back to you on them too. So I'm just going to
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so one question from the chat is, one legislative proposal that keeps cropping up is a change CPI that would affect retirees adversely. Is the senator aware of the change CPI and will he oppose it?
All right, could I have more background on the change CPI? I want to make sure that I'm thinking of the same thing that
okay.
you're
John
thinking
John
of.
Lampman, do you want to add something, John Lampman? John?
Are you on mute?
John, take yourself off of mute.
Okay.
There you go. No, wait.
John, you're still on mute. If you're talking, we can't hear you.
How
There you
about
go.
now?
Okay.
So, sorry. So one of the proposals that the other party keeps putting out is a reduced COLA specifically for federal employees. So right now, each January, we get a full COLA based on the CPI for three months. I may be mistaken on the methodology. But what this proposal that keeps cropping up would do, it would reduce our COLA, by what appears to be a minuscule amount. But then when you start, looking 5-10 years, it would have a dramatic impact. And federal employees went into the government to serve, but also we went into the government with the idea that our retirement benefits would be protected. So I hope that the senator would vehemently oppose this and any proposal that would reduce the benefits that federal workers have acquired, hopefully through their service. Thank you.
Thanks. And just to clarify, in case you know this, was this the change that was made in the 2017 changes to the tax code? This change to change CPI?
Are you?
If not, it's that was.
If it was, I don't know if it was. I know it's been a proposal.
Okay, so this is just in a proposal stage. Okay, gotcha. So it's not something that's currently law.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the main thing, if I can add, I don't know if I'm on. Am I on mute now?
We can hear you.
The chain CPI is the idea that if a consumer sees the price go up on an object, that they can change what they buy. So instead of buying.
Oops.
Whoever's speaking is breaking up. Is that you, Steve? So maybe let me ask an adjacent question to that. One of the issues that NARFE has been very interested in is the index that's used to decide or determine what kind of COLA we would be entitled to as annuitants. And right now, crazily, they're using the one for clerical workers, for retirees, which has things like transportation, clothing, which is probably less of interest to a lot of our membership than trying to use the CPI that's related to elderly, which includes more medical issues. So I don't know if there's been any movement on trying to get that the index used for federal employees.
Yeah, I'm not sure as of now. I'll check in with Rebecca, and we have regular briefings with the Bureau of Labor Statistics and just the DOL generally. So in our next briefing, we'll definitely bring both of these issues up specifically and see if they have any insights on that. So this was a really helpful flag for us. So thank you for bringing it up.
Another question we have is, any plans to address the inequities of the Trump era's so-called tax cuts? My taxes went up as have my taxes went up as have those of most people I know.
Yeah, definitely agreed. And the senator's, supportive of reform, as is, the Biden administration too. So this will probably come in the form of, a larger legislative push. So once we get a better understanding of when, that's going to be kickstarted and, what the conversation is going to look like, we'll definitely let you know. But that's definitely, reform that the senator is looking to help support too.
And then we have a comment of the Bureau of Labor Statistics can provide more background on the change CPI issue. And another one is, it's a proposal that returns year after year with the change COLA. It is insidious in how it erodes standard of living.
Okay, these are really helpful. And in our briefings, one thing that, would also be helpful is anytime that we can provide, stories or examples from communities on the ground. That's always helpful when, we're talking to different agencies or departments, and always happy to keep, things anonymous or, as vague as needed. So if you'd like to send, any more information about, any documented information based on what you were discussing or any of your own personal experiences too, definitely send that over to me. So that would help in our briefings with different agencies and departments on this front.
Okay, nothing else in the chat. So if anybody else has any questions, just raise your hand.
Joy, is that a hand from before, or did you have another question?
Oh, it's okay. So Deborah, you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me? I just wanted to know how the senator feels about the windfall elimination provision of Social Security. There talks about repealing that, so some federal employees can increase their benefits under Social Security, namely FERS employees who have worked previously.
Yeah, I'll double check on that.
I'm sorry, CSRS employees who've worked previously.
Yeah.
In the private sector.
Yeah, I've heard sort of whispers about it here and there. I'm looking to see, how concrete the proposals are. And then, based on, how it moves forward, then we'll keep you updated on, how the senator is going to be, of support and what that's going to look like moving forward. So as I get more information, I'll let you know.
I think that's S1302, the one that he's already co-sponsored.
Oh, am I thinking about? Wait, sorry, give me 1 second.
Wait,
sorry, which one was this one specifically? Was this
1302?
Was this the Social Security Fairness Act?
No, this has to do with the people who are who could qualify for Social Security and CSRS retirement. So Reagan pushed something where you can't get both.
Right.
And this is a bill to repeal that because people have paid into both systems. So it's not fair that now they can only collect on one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was thinking about another bill. I think that was introduced related.
I just want to say with CRS, and also those CSRS employees who might have converted to FERS and 30 years of service under Social Security. I think I'm not sure the exact details, but I think it goes away after 30 years of service. But there are a lot of employees who are sort of caught between two systems. Once when they had Social Security and once when they didn't, and this would really increase their Social Security benefits if they're currently retired under FERS.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's helpful. Yes, the senator is definitely a co-sponsor of S1302. I guess I was thinking about another issue related to CSRS, but I'll make sure before I say any, I want to make sure that I'm giving information that's, confirmed. So I'm giving information that's accurate. So I'll double check that with Rebecca and let you know if there's anything else in the works aside from S1302 that relates to this issue.
While there's a pause, I'll ask a question. I don't know, one of the issues, most of us on the call, I think, are CSRS employees, but with the FERS employees, one of the, I like to call it like smoke and mirrors in terms of trying to get the budget balance, that FERS employees are entitled to a COLA, but they get less 1%. So I know there's been a push about trying to bring that to parity to give them the full COLA instead of, 5% minus 1, if that's the COLA for the rest of us. Do you know if there's been any movement on that?
I'm not sure if there's been concrete movement, but I know that the senator's supportive of full parity. So, once that's, introduced, in terms of concrete legislation, we'll definitely keep you updated on that too.
Other questions? So I just
I do have.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I have a question, but it's not related to, particularly related to NARFE issues, though it's clearly an issue that affects us all. And it with the Build Back Better bill failing at the end of last year, I'm curious what parts the senator thinks realistically might be reintroduced in smaller packages that we could hope to pass, in particular those issues related to climate change. That is the defining issue of our time. And it's not a particularly NARFE issue, but it's an issue that affects all of us and especially our kids. And I would really like to see or think that there's some hope that climate change legislation could pass in some form this year.
Yeah, totally. And, the senator's, ultimately optimistic. Climate change is, one of the issues that he's been a strong champion of and something that he has a personal history with. He was raised in Pacoima, which is, a region that was especially impacted and continues to be impacted by environmental justice issues, particularly, air quality, among other things. So, there were a couple provisions even within the infrastructure package that the senator was able to secure. But when it comes to Build Back Better, we have a couple policy staffers, Nate, Sarah, and Angela, who are working on, the air front, the water front, the energy front, the wildfire front, and the lands front. And, they're each working within their respective lanes to understand, when it comes to the climate provisions of Build Back Better, what can realistically pass, and, how are we going to be able to negotiate that support? I wish, even at the DC staff level, we don't have the best understanding of, the inside baseball yet, especially when it comes to Manchin. But I do know that, Manchin continues to have conversations, with the senator as well. They worked really closely, unrelated to climate change, but they were also, on the initial smaller task force around, voting rights reform legislation. So that's, a space where they became closer colleagues, not only on voting rights, but now have, an ongoing conversation around a variety of these issues as well. So it's something that the senator continues to push for, but also has, a good working relationship with his colleagues to be able to reiterate the importance of getting these climate change provisions passed, just for, future generations and, addressing the climate crisis that we're all in. So, you'll always have a strong ally in the senator on that front. And as we get updates on, how Build Back Better might change in the coming, weeks or months as we work to get this passed, we'll definitely keep you updated. But the senator is definitely optimistic and wants to continue moving this forward because it's just so, necessary for Californians and, just our nation too. So appreciate that question.
Pauline, Lenny's going to drop off. Thanks for the invite, and I enjoyed the talk with the senator's aide. Have a nice day.
You too. Take care.
Bye, Courtney.
So I mentioned it. This is Pauline. So I mentioned it early on. I just wanted to give another hats off because as a person of color, there's so many different subtle cuts when people talk to each other. And I mentioned the one about, I guess it was some sort of hearing about a Black attorney who's going to be appointed or something. And the way the group, the committee was questioning him was that, what is this? Instead of asking about his record, they were saying your rap sheet, which has a whole different connotation. And I'm just really glad that Senator Padilla is calling people out on that because most people are too polite to do that, but that's why it gets perpetuated. So kudos to him.
I appreciate that. And, just even drawing attention to it is so important to be able to, change people's mindsets around it, or at the very least, show that it's something that's not, okay to do. And, when it comes to his engagements with, the state, or when it comes to, legislation that he's moving in DC, and just due to his, personal history and the values that he stands for, social and racial justice is something that is, a moving value that he continues to carry forward in, the work that he does. And, as that relates back to, legislation or anything, on the state side that you think would be helpful, definitely keep us apprised of that, because there are a lot of, equity issues that are present right here in California that are, predominantly affecting, working class people of color in California. So it's really important for, the senator to keep hearing those stories so he can address that on the federal side. So appreciate that too.
So if there are no other questions, I'd just like to ask the personal one is, Zahra, how did you come to do this work?
Thank you. I haven't got that question in a while. I think a lot of it for me, goes back to faith and family. So my mom, she's, a leader in the Muslim community here in the Bay Area. And, when I was younger, I watched her lead a lot of, direct service programs that were supporting, our Muslim community members here. And, seeing her work so hard to get, the support and resources that they need to thrive, that's something that, I continue to carry with me. And, once I started in college, I organized around housing and labor issues in particular, and, kind of took that and was like, you know what, I think I want to continue in a career in public service. And until I got to college, I didn't even know that was, a path that I could even, take, because I didn't really have that representation. So, members like, the senator and also, leaders in our own community, like the organizing work that you all are doing now to be able to, increase access and, support and resources for people is something that, continues to really inspire me and help me learn and grow as I continue to engage in this work. So, thank you all for your continued, advocacy and this partnership. And I want to be, as supportive as I can in any way, whether it's getting you all the information that you need or uplifting your stories and experiences to be able to inform the work that the senator's doing. So, again, just thank you all for this conversation and for the, opportunity to share my work and my story too.